We do have a governor's race coming up, and it's getting heavy, and the voting is beginning. And sometimes, I get suspicious. I can admit, I get a little bit suspicious when I see the Seattle Times get excited about a Republican candidate. So I got a little bit suspicious when I saw the Seattle Times seeming to celebrate the candidacy of Dr. Raul Garcia. And I got, oh, no, I have the sense maybe it's the mainstream Republicans. Maybe they're trying to peel votes off of Tim Imond or of the candidates. So I get a little bit nervous in that. So we did what we did. We reached out to Dr. Garcia. Dr. Raul Garcia, for governor, joins us now. Dr. Garcia, pleasure to have you on the Todd Herman Show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Good morning. And thanks for everybody for listening.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Let's start with something you and I are, I think, in agreement. You are a physician, ER physician. I know you met your wife when she was an RN and maybe still is, and got a very robust, very, very successful career. Looks like a beautiful family doctor. Talk about Jay Inslee's approach to the COVID and how you view it as a physician.
Well, not only as a physician, but I'm a microbiologist, immunologist, and the first thing that I noticed in this pandemic that was really didn't jive with me was the fact that we didn't shield our most vulnerable population. So our elderly in our nursing homes started getting sick and dying. But most importantly, there was a period after we were riding the first wave where hospitals had control of this pandemic, and we were empty. We started furloughing nurses and doctors because we didn't have business. And elective surgeries were not allowed. At this point in any pandemic, it's the time to release the valve and get the people back in the street. You could have given them restrictions back then. You could have reopened our economy with their small business startups. And we could have gone back to our regular life. We wouldn't be in the place that we are today. We had the chance to do it, and we didn't. This is not a virus that we are going to eradicate. We're not in the middle of nowhere in a small town that we could quarantine everybody and then the virus doesn't get out. This virus is all over the place. So the goal is just to support the medical personnel so they don't get overwhelmed. And that was the time to release it. And I don't understand why we keep delaying it. So that's my opinion of this governor. And the biggest difference that I have, which is why I jumped into the race, because it reminded me of my years under a dictator in Cuba, was that one branch of government has decided to rule and control and mandate our citizens without checks and balances, without a legislature there, without any other checks and balances. And that's when I said, well, I was venting to my wife enough over a campfire in Rimrock. Yeah. And she looked at me and said, why don't you put your guts where your mouth is and get this clown out of office? And I worked for Senator Dole back in 1990, and I always had this dream that I needed to be prepared to be in public office one day to give back to this flag for everything it did for me as a skinny kid from Cuba that didn't speak English, that had hand-me-down clothes. So I looked at her and I said, are you serious? Are you finally giving me the freedom to go into public office? And she said, I will support you 100%. Actually, she said, I double dog dare you. If you do this, I support you 100%. And that's how it started. In a little campfire in Rimrock.
Very good. Dr. Raul Garcia is with us, running for governor. I agree with you wholeheartedly on the pandemic. And my study's been 32 hours a week on this, doctor, now for 4 months, and never thought I'd have any handle on epidemiology or virology. And certainly I don't ever contend I'll ever have your granularity of knowledge. But there's the Sweden model that it has worked, and it is insane to me what we're doing, thinking that somehow delaying people getting the virus is even something you want to do. We're not letting young people build herd immunity. It's nuts. So we're on major agreement terms there. Let me ask you this question: in being a physician, have you? And I don't mean to downplay your other areas of expertise, but curriculum in Washington State that Jay Inslee signed into law.
Oh, I have read it. I think it's absurd. I think that the milestones for children are not visualized in this curriculum correctly. I think that we are forcing our wants and our opinion into children that are not ready to learn these things. And I think really the whole thing needs to be scrapped. And I think that it will be scrapped on November 3rd when we put it in the ballot.
Yeah, and it is going to go on the ballot, and the people are going to have a chance to vote against it. So let me ask you specifically, medically, then we'll get to some of the other issues. Dr. Raul Garcia is with us. The curricula is obsessed from kindergarten on with telling kids that sex is an issue of the mind, that doctors guess at what sex a baby is. How many sexes are there, and are they determinable, doctor?
You know, like I just said, developmental milestones need to be reached before our kids get certain education, and certainly about sex. And a lot of this, through our history, not a lot, 99% of it has come from families, right? We teach our kids sex education. And I understand that the schools want to come in and help the parents out and have sex education, but let's do it at the right developmental milestone in their mental capability. When we are talking about teaching kindergartens about things such as masturbation, what are we thinking? Right. This is not a time to be teaching our kindergartens about that. And if you follow this curriculum, it gets worse and worse throughout. So definitely not something that has medical data behind it. Definitely the physicians that are specialists in developmental milestones will be against it. And definitely something that, like I said, we need to reverse seriously in November 3rd.
And so just to the specific question, they're teaching kids that there's no such thing as biological sex, that's determined by the mind. So is that true, and how many sexes are there?
No, that is not true. Certainly, we have pushed a very liberal agenda here into brainwashing our kids into a certain way of thinking, and that is not okay. Yeah. Government is not here to mandate and teach our kids. I mean, I'll tell you very quick, and I'll make it quick. I know we don't have a lot of time. When we were in fourth grade, our teacher told us to put our heads down and ask God for candy. And candy wasn't there when we put our heads back up. So then she said, okay. Then she said, okay, why don't you now put your heads down and ask our government, Fidel Castro, for candy? And candy appeared on every desk. And she said, this is so you understand that the only God is your government. No, sir.
Wow.
I'm sorry. But forcing this sex education is analogous to me to that brainwashing that I had in fourth grade in Cuba by the system that wants us to believe that.
What a potent story. Wow. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking with you. Let's talk about, I want to get into your goals in office. Clearly, cleaning up after this mismanagement of the COVID is going to be a huge job. Let's running things and being a boss and convincing people to work with you, because Washington State is controlled by Seattle. Let me just touch on my right to own weapons. Are there classes of weapons I should not be allowed to own in terms of firearms?
No, I think that first of all, I stand strongly for the Second Amendment. When they took rights to bear arms in Cuba, where I came from, a dictator was born for 61 years and has not been able to be taken down. My own uncle went to jail because he was found with a gun and nearly killed. All his friends were killed by a firing squad for the same. So people ask about tragedy, and people ask about, look at all the shootings that we have. We need to concentrate on mental health. That's what we need to focus in. We don't need to give more restrictions to our citizens as to their freedom. We need to find safety in the government for the people, and the safety in arms comes through mental health and a good program in mental health so we don't have a tragedy. It does not come on restrictions on guns, on restrictions on our freedom. It comes on making sure that the guns are in the right hands, and we do that with a focus in mental health.
I like it. Dr. Raul Garcia is with us. I want to get into leadership and running a state and balancing a budget and things that I don't know that you've done. I don't know that you've not. I just have to touch on one thing because it is it's in discussion. I've seen a video. It appears to be you in a DUI circumstance. I think if this was you, and it looks like you, blew, I think, 3 times the state limit on this. A, I don't think that this qualifies people from holding office. People make mistakes. B, was that you? What happened? Has that ever happened again? And is this a pattern in your life?
So it was me. I am not perfect. Yeah. I made one mistake in 33 years of driving. Yeah. And I have come out and been very accountable for that mistake. Mm-hmm. We have a choice to become victim to mistakes that we make in our lives or to be better people. And I have chosen to become a better person because of that mistake. There is a medical explanation of why, after 70 hours of not sleep, I had that experience. I really don't want to bore you with that. I did get a reckless driving out of it because of that explanation and what we were able to prove. But regardless, I should not have been driving. And the officer that arrested me did his job correctly, was very professional, and actually we became acquaintances after that. I applaud what he did, and I'm responsible for what happened. So what I want to say is it made me better. It made me more empathetic as a leader, and that was then, and this is now. This is not something that has ever happened again in my life and will never happen again in my life. So that's where we are right now with that experience that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay, good. This is a great answer. Dr. Raul Garcia is with us, running for governor of Washington State. We've covered off on the mismanagement as you see it, and I agree in terms of the COVID. We've covered off on your amazing story that relates to the sex ed education here and seeing that scrapped. And we do have a chance to do that on November 3rd to vote that out of our state. Let's talk about taking over as the number one employee. We hire you as state of Washington to run things. Let's talk about, first of all, the administrative skills you bring to the table. I mean, being governor is not being a bookkeeper, but we have a big state that's in a huge financial mess, Doctor. It is. We have yet to even enter how bad the financial mess is. So day one, you come in with a set of skills. Have you managed a profit and loss statement? Have you managed a business?
Yes. So I have my own business in Yakima. It's a wellness clinic. I have been hit by this pandemic as well, like every other business. You said something very key. You will have the number one employee title in our state. I love that, and may I use it from now on?
Yes,
because
please.
I have been preaching that the government works for the people. That, as Ronald Reagan said, government was created as a convenience and given power by the people, not to control or mandate, but to educate and walk hand in hand with us and make our lives better. So I have held various executive positions at the state level and national level. I have actually always held executive positions, and hence that's why I'm running for governor. But what I have learned is that the best leaders and why I have succeeded so much is not because I know everything, and I know that I don't know everything. And it's not because I want to control anything. The best leaders find the right people and put them in the right place and hold them accountable. And we do not have accountability in our government today, and that's why people have lost trust and respect. And the one thing that I bring to the table is that I am not a career politician. So I don't need to put my friend, the chef, that has no experience in fish and wildlife, but because he gave a lot of money, that is what I'm going to put him in. No, we're going to have the right, passionate, knowledgeable, and accountable person in each position so we can succeed together. And that's how a leader leads, and that's how those people make that leader look good.
Really well said, Dr. Raul Garcia. So in terms of entering office as governor of Washington State, if that were to happen and you were to be elected and you were to be hired to be our chief employee, what are your top 3 priorities on day one?
Well, I have said over and over again that I'm here to govern. I'm not here to win an election. So I have every day made appointments with the people that have been in this experience before, like Senator Braun, the head of the Ways and Means Committee and the Republican side, and Treasurer Davison, because we're going to have a big problem with our budget, and that is going to be a priority. I just don't understand why we have not called a special session already and have the legislature deal with this. So we're going to concentrate on that. I think education is the building block of any community. And we need to concentrate in a more robust educational system that is meaningful, that is in the hands of the teachers and the schools, and erases all this bureaucracy that we have built in education so our kids can compete with China and India and Europe when they get out. We need to bring civics and history back into our education system, so we don't have people tearing down statues and they don't even know what they're doing. And we need to finally, in high school, get Running Start programs for people that don't go to college, because every kid doesn't go to college, but they can go to trade school and tech school and be apprentices for construction and other honorable jobs that when they finish in 12th grade, they could actually have a job. So education is big. And I've already talked about the focus on mental health and drug addiction, which I believe are 2 of the biggest causes for the homelessness problem in our state. If we take care of mental health and drug addiction and create a robust drug addiction rehabilitation program, the homelessness problem becomes very manageable. So
I think it does. I think there's one more step. Because we're getting short on time, I've got about 2 minutes left. You've talked about living under a dictator, and you've talked about it so eloquently. There's one other step. We cannot continue to invite drug dealers and cartels here with our refusal to deport or be involved in deporting criminal illegal immigrants, people who snuck into the country and committed subsequent crimes. And, Doctor, I'm sure you agree that we cannot have the lawlessness of open-air drug dealing on our streets.
180%. 180%. Governor Inslee made his own decision to make this a sanctuary state. He didn't ask the people. He didn't ask the legislature, and we're not going to wave a flag and tell criminals to come hide here. That is not going to happen. And we are going to support our police force. We are going to have law-abiding cities, because there's so many good people that really love their job, that protect our citizens. So when they talk about defunding the police, I say, okay, let's come to the table and talk, and you will find out that not only do we need to not defund the police, we need to give them more money.
Yeah. Yeah, there's dictators by one measure that is completely totalitarian. Then there's dictators by another manner, which is the capriciousness of tyranny. I started this conversation quite suspicious of you because the Seattle Times appeared to promote you. I am really happy I met you, and I am really thrilled with this conversation. This isn't what I expected. And I'm filled with gratitude that you decided to be in this race. And I want to talk again further. How do people get in touch with you if they want to help the campaign, Dr. Garcia?
So Dr. Garcia, the number 4, governor.com is our website. We'll have all our information there. And certainly any further questions that you have to the audience, please ask us, contact us. I'm always willing to answer all the questions. I think that we also need a transparent government, and it starts here.
All right. There it is. Dr. Raul Garcia. It's Dr. Dr. Garcia for Governor.com. Go with God's good grace, sir. Thanks for telling your story and your vision for Washington State. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.